Hello and welcome to the Governors for Schools Conference 2022, sponsored by the Institution of Engineering and Technology. My name is Oliver Keane, Insight Manager here at Governors for Schools, and I'm really happy to welcome you here to this session on behalf of Governors for Schools. So induction is such a critical process to ensuring strong and cohesive governing boards. So this morning, we're really happy to be joined by Ellie Cheshire of GovernorHub, who's going to lead us through this hands-on workshop exploring how governor induction plans can be made to work for all governors to help them settle into their roles quickly and effectively. The session will focus in particular on what you can do to review and update your governor induction plans to ensure they're as supportive and relevant as possible. Now, today's session is being recorded and will be shared with you by email after the conference and by the end of the week, we hope. The session is also CPD accredited by the CPD Certification Service, and you can get a complimentary certificate to confirm your attendance at the session by filling in the short post-webinar survey that will appear after the webinar. You'll just need to confirm that you're happy for us to share your name and email with the CPD Certification Service, and then they'll issue and send your certificate by email. This may take up to 28 days. You're welcome to post any questions you have in the Q&A feature on Zoom, and we'll answer as many as we can. And you can also join the conversation on Twitter at hashtag GFS Conference 2022 to share your views. So without any further delay, I'll hand it over to Ellie.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a nice morning session. I hope you've got your cup of tea by you. And off we go. Let me try and... Can you all hear me now? There you go. For some reason I got muted then. Never mind. I'm unmuted now. Good morning. My name is Ellie Cheshire. I'm Product Manager for Governance at The Key. For those who don't know our products, this is GovernorHub and The Key for School Governors. So a little bit of scene setting just so you know who I am and who's talking to you today. As Product Manager for Governance at The Key, it's my job to make sure we're working on the right thing at the right time. So I spend a lot of my time talking to governors, trustees, clerks, governance professionals, government services, support teams, and you name it, about what makes life difficult out there in the world of governance. I'm also a chair of governors at a local governing board for a multi-academy trust. And so I've not only obviously been through induction myself many moons ago, but obviously I help my governors when they start too. So with GovernorHub and The Key for School Governors, you'll see my flippant notes at the bottom there. GovernorHub really does make life easier. Key for School Governors stops you looking silly when you're doing it. And that's really important. We really try and help our governors with those difficult areas that that come with governance. So hopefully I'll be able to bring some of this sort of making life easier and stop you looking silliness to the whole subject of induction this morning. That's a little bit about me done. I'd like to know a little bit about you, if that's okay. We've got some polls. I don't know if somebody could launch the polls. I can see if I can do it. Oh, yes, I can. There you go. So we've launched the polls. If you'd like to go to the poll section, whether it's at the bottom or the top of your screen, and just fill in those polls, that would be wonderful. I've got some questions in there. I'd like to know your role, what type of school you're in, and what the current induction process is like in your school, to have a see who we've got in the room. So yeah, I can see you're all filling it in. That's wonderful. I don't know if you can see the answers, so I shall call them out when they've sort of slowed down. Let's have a look. So we've got a lot of clerks and governance professionals in the room. That's wonderful to see. Governors, trustees, chairs. Great stuff. So we've got a nice range of people in the room with a nice range of experience. Lots of LA maintained governors and clerks in the room. A good spread of boards. Okay, so we've got just under half in LA maintained. We've got 30% in multi-academy trust, 9% in single academy and trust, and 9% in a local academy within a MAP. That's me. How about the current induction process? Okay, well, we've got 15% of you are saying you've got a well-established and successful process, so that's fantastic. So do, in the chat, add your thoughts, add your comments, add your hints and tips for everybody else to see in the chat. That will be really helpful. I always think when you're in a room full of governors, doesn't matter who the Joe standing at the front is spouting out stuff, whatever they say, The real experience is with all the other people in the room. So do join in the chat, make your comments, have a look to see what everybody else is doing, because it's really important. We've got 68% of you here saying you've got an induction process in place, but it does need reviewing. So hopefully we'll be able to give you some really practical hints and tips today to take away and do that. And you've got 17% in the room that actually say you haven't got an induction process in place at all. So I really hope that we'll be able to get you started and give you something to do. That would be brilliant. Good stuff. I'm going to end the poll there. And hopefully you'll be able to see the results there for those of you that need to see them. Good stuff. Okay, let's move on. So a bit about me is done and a bit about the room is done. Turn the whole thing off there. There you go. So why is induction important? Now, obviously, you've all come here to hear this session this morning, so you all think induction is important. That's great news. You're in the right room. But I think it's always worth, no matter what subject you're talking about, going right back to basics and saying, look, why are we doing this? Why is this important? Because that you're far more likely to make that output really mean something if you think about it. And I had a little think about why induction is important to me. And I think there's these two reasons. Number one is that governance is weird. It is, isn't it? Because let's have a think about it. You've got a room full of people. You've got this disparate group of people sat around the table. Some might have educational experience. A lot won't. A lot of them, well, actually, the only experience they've got of education is that they once went to school. Some with good experiences in school, some with really bad experiences at school. You've got people coming from all different sectors, coming together, they don't know each other, don't know what to expect, don't usually know a lot about governance. It's one of those things that's really, really not very well known in the sort of wider sectors. And yet they're expected to hold the head teacher to account. They're supposed to think about the finance in the school that they've not even come across. They're supposed to do the head teacher's performance. They might be sitting on exclusion panels. Some really, really quite stressful and definitely really important things. Governance is really strange. And for people to be able to jump into this sort of new world and actually become really effective, hopefully really quickly, it's a bit of a tough job. And induction is just so important in setting that scene. So anything we can do to help that is important. And the other aspect that says, you know, why is induction really something you really need to get to grips with in your board, is that actually, if you don't do it well, it could be quite disastrous. If you don't do your induction well and your governors don't know really where their roles sit, what they're supposed to do, the differences, let's say, between strategy and operation, one of those most important things, most difficult to get to grips with things ever, what's going to happen? Your governance isn't going to be as effective. You're not going to have as much impact. If you don't understand your role, I mean, you think about the important roles in recruitment. One of the most important things that you'll do holding this office is recruiting a head teacher. And you think about the impact of sloppy recruitment. I mean, that could really mess up all sorts of things. So for those two reasons, what I want you to think about here today, and if you've got your pens and papers next to you, or you think about, you know, what am I going to take away from this? I would like for the rest of the session actually to think that whatever I'm talking about, think about, okay, with my induction, how can I make governance less weird to that new person? How can I bring them on and get them to really get the role when they first start? And the other thing is, okay, so if I do it badly, what's the impact going to be? So therefore, in the things I've got in my induction plans, the way I decide to do this, what's the impact going to be? How can I actually reduce the risk of doing something, you know, really poorly? And hopefully I'll be able to take you through lots of different things that are going to help. So where to start? This slide is kind of the inside of my brain, inside of any governor's brain. Governance is complex. It's a big job. We've got all sorts of things to really think about and do. I mean, there's just a smattering of the things we do here, but, you know, they're all really big as well. You know, we've got, you know, like tiny little exams and tests in there. That's a major thing that has real impacts on the pupils. We've got to think about the data. We've got to think about the individual different types of people in our school. We've got all just the meetings to do. I mean, and that's the sort of major part, right? But there's all the stuff around it. And so actually induction has got to help people cut through these weeds, to make it simple, to give a nice overview that says, look, don't worry about all these millions of things. We're going to walk you through it. I'm going to help you through, and we'll do one thing at a time. I'd like to open the chat here and have it get you all a little bit involved. Let's see if I can see the chat. I think I can. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to see the chat, but if you'd like to pop into the chat, everybody, and I'd like you to think about how your induction was. So we've got 17% of you that doesn't have an induction process in place in your boards, and I'd like to think back to when you started. And I'd like you to pop into the chat and just put a few things in there. Think about which was hardest to get to grips with when you started as a governor, whether it was your first board meeting, your first meetings with people or whatever. What was the hardest thing that you found to get to grips with as a governor before you started thinking, oh, do you know what, I think I can do it now? So if you pop in the chat, I can see, yeah, you're coming in. Oh, chat's disabled, people are saying. I don't know if anybody can open that up for us. Let's see. Hopefully we can open that up. If not, you'll just have to listen to me. Great stuff. Well, let me know if the chat's open up. Oh, Ronnie, thank you very much. Overwhelmed. Oh, there you go. The chat's on. Hooray. Brilliant. Good stuff. Here we go. COVID. Oh, gosh, coming through COVID. Yeah, everything's minimal, right? I mean, being inducted in COVID, starting governance in COVID, governance is complex at the best of times, but to be able to do all that from your kitchen or whatever, very difficult. Now, this is really important. I'll say, let everybody look at the chat things that are coming in, the jargon, the data, so much to learn, all these different things. And there's loads of people in the room. I'm not obviously going to try and have a chat with you all because there's too many of you, but for everybody, I'd say, look in this chat and see all these things. And hopefully you might even be able to copy and paste into something else. I'll ask the guys whether we can and send that out, because these are all people that have been through it, right? We've all been through induction and actually trying to understand, look, what do I need to do when I go into the stuff? That's great. Really important. How to challenge, how to support, what questions to ask, right? All those sorts of things. Really difficult stuff. So what I want to do today is just sort of cut through some of that information, cut through the noise. Oh, Emma, I could see you didn't have an induction. You were overwhelmed. No idea whether you were meant to. Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, am I supposed to say anything? Let me tell you about my first meeting. When I started, there was 2 parent governors started. We came to a meeting. We sat there. Nobody introduced themselves or introduced us. We just sat there the whole meeting, didn't know what to say, couldn't input, didn't understand a word of what we were hearing. And yet, by the time we left that first meeting, I was maths governor and she was English governor. And that school was, their major issues were pushing English and maths, pushing those core subjects. And we'd come away with the link role to those really important areas. Crazy, right? Jargon. I've seen so many people talking about the jargon, really important. We've got somebody, Susan, you've just started. Great. So let's help you. So brilliant. There's loads of stuff there in that chat, but have a look at that and just see all those things that are difficult, because if we found these things difficult, so will your new governors. So if you can just ease that pressure, that's what you need to do. Any job that we do, especially in governance, we need to think about the outcome. We talked about all of this sort of the largeness of the job and all the complications and how can we make it simple. Now, no matter what session like this I do, doesn't matter the subject, could be on anything, I always trot out this slide because it's really important. On the right hand side, you've got the 3 core functions of governance: clarity of vision, holding leaders to account, making sure that cash is spent okay. Doesn't matter what we're doing, go back to those 3 things. This is what we're trying to do. Any new governor, all these governors feeling really overwhelmed and just thinking, what am I going to do? Go back to these 3 core functions. Number 1, clarity of vision. Do we understand where we're going? Make sure in your induction that they do understand where you're going. Think about your vision. What is your school aiming to do? Holding leaders to account. Okay, how can we do that? We've got to make sure our governors feel able to challenge and support. How are we going to get them talking in meetings? How are we going to get them asking the right questions? How are we going to get them feeling able to actually feeling like they can contribute? One thing that I would always suggest to new governors, especially those of you I can see saying, yeah, I've just started, I feel really overwhelmed. New governors are fantastic. Doesn't matter what background you come from, what knowledge you have already, you are fantastic. And that is because you don't know anything yet. because all you need to do is start asking those questions. Somebody once said, if you're in a room of governors and they've all been doing it for 20 years or more, you're going to be in a room with some really fantastic governors, right? With loads of experience, loads of skill, loads of knowledge. You're actually probably going to be in a room with some of the worst governors as well, if you've got all of these 20-year pluses. And that's because things change so often. The governance, education changes and changes. And to keep up with that and keep fresh and keep learning is quite often something that people kind of forget to do. New governors come in with no knowledge and they ask questions. Why do you do it like that? What's the impact of that? What are you hoping that's going to do? So I would say one thing with your new governors is to impart that actually they are great because they don't know anything and they're going to come in and they're going to ask. So what you're aiming for with your induction is helping those governors get these things, understand these 3 things, and that's why they're here to do. Make sure, therefore, they know the school, they can challenge and they can support, and ultimately they can make a difference. You want to make sure that that governor is able to make a difference. And as whoever you are trying to put that induction plan in place and make that work, that's what you're there to do. That's why governors be a governor, to make a difference to that school. So let's help them do it. Structure. We want to keep things simple. Now, this picture here, this governor user journey, this is something, we all come from different sectors, right? So I'm product management, and it's my job to make sure our products solve problems, pain points. Anything with a PP on this picture is a pain point. And when I started this particular role, I went right back to basics, just as I've been suggested, and said, right, what do governors need? What do governors do? And therefore, what do they need? What are they trying to get out of this? And I went through, as you can see, this is what I use for my job, all the way down here. Well, they join the board. What do they need? Poor induction can be really deflating. I've got to make sure that, we help them do that. Their first meeting, what do they need there? They're going to need to be able to ask a question. How can I help them do that? And this is the way I work out from with our products, so what we actually, what we do, what we make to enable that to happen. But just as with that, if you're going to build an induction plan that works, I want you to really go back and think about those new governors and think about their pain points and how you can solve those. It's too easy to just try and find a ready-made structure to use. And I will share at the end of this some resources to help you do that. We have on the Key for School Governors, we have articles that will help you with your induction planning. We've got a download that a checklist that you can use. But what's really important, and it sounds a bit at odds because I'm sort of talking about my articles and then telling you not to use them. What I'm saying is use those articles and turn them into something that really works for your school. We'll shortcut the sort of effort in the background. You take those things and turn them into something that's really impactful. So what I'm suggesting is you meet the governors where they are with what they need. You don't want to overload them. Somebody, one of my colleagues said when she joined, she met the chair and they literally just gave her a pile of papers and just said, there you go, we'll see you at the first meeting. And it was just so overwhelming. It's not helpful. Piece by piece, bit by bit, try not to overload, stay practical, help people know what to do, start simple, and then help them build as you go. So the process. I'm going to walk you through the process. This is how I would do things. This is how, and I'm not going to do it in great detail because you'll be asleep before the morning started. And as I said, you do have the resource that you can go through at your leisure and work your way through. Oh, apologies, cat landed on that. Here's the process. So number 1, Tim. I think we've got a poll. Do you think let me see if I can launch this poll again. Oh, I've only got 3 questions. I don't know if the other questions have been set up. If somebody could launch the poll, that would be good. I was going to ask people who's responsible for inducting governors and trustees on your board. There you go. Okay. If you'd all like to fill that in, if you can see your poll, I'd love to know that on your board, who is responsible. Here they go. All the words in, they're all coming in. Flying in. So it's looking like as they come in, that mostly it's your chair. We've got about 30% of the room that's saying their chair. And then we've got them really spread out, vice chair, clerk, a specific governor, you all share it. Governance coordinator for the map. The same 17% saying no one really, that'll be the ones that don't have an induction plan in place. Absolutely. And I've also asked about a mentor and a buddy. When you became governor, did you have a mentor or a buddy? We've got 13% of you said yes, they did, and it was useful. 7 said yeah, but it doesn't really help much. But we've got 80% of you just saying no, you didn't have a mentor buddy, which is really interesting. I think that's really important. The team that you use to help you do your induction is important. Mostly, I would say, yeah, the chair. You want to take ownership of that. Make sure that your governors are coming in and knowing what to do. However, if as a chair you are absolutely rammed and you're not going to have the time to do it, don't try and cram it in. Get somebody else to do it. Delegate. Delegating things is really important if you need to. Delegate to somebody who's going to be good at it, who has the time to do it, who understands the importance of it. Maybe somebody who really didn't like their induction and didn't find it easy and actually really understands the importance of doing this well. Generally, as I said, it was the chair, and we would suggest that that would be a good idea, but don't feel that has to be set in stone. Make this work for your school and your board. The most important thing is that you get people up and running nice and swiftly. Scene setting. So I'm going to take you through this lovely wander through an induction process here. And let's think of these aspects. So number one, team, get the person right. Make sure you've got somebody who can spend the time and do it properly. And then make sure you do some scene setting. Meet this governor up front. Preferably, even before they became a governor, it would be good to meet them up front and say, look, this is what governance is. Are you sure you want to do it? Because there's nothing worse than people joining your board and saying, oh, I thought it was like the PTA. It doesn't seem to be like that. I thought I was going to help do, X, Y, Z. Nope, it's a bit more serious than that. The scene setting should be you. It should be the chair and the governance and whoever's going to help do this induction planning. All too often, I would say the scene setting is done by a head teacher. And whilst that's great that they're getting involved, I don't think it sets the scene quite right. If you meet the chair as a new governor or whoever's going to, or your mentor, and they explain, the gravity of what you're doing, having the head in there just doesn't help that balance. You need to make sure that, you're responsible for providing leadership. You're responsible for providing the direction. You're responsible for the vision. You own that vision in the school. And if you're meeting the governor for the first time, as opposed to the head, that really helps you set that scene. It's great to be a sort of unified team, to meet the head, going into the school is great fun, right? But I think for that first scene setting, you really want to set that tone right for the meeting so they know exactly what's expected of them. In that scene setting session, I would present that vision. Make sure you understand that, that improvement strategy for the future. This is the school. This is what we are trying to do as a board. And this is what we're really trying to make sure happens. I would also explain how the governing board and committees function so they understand the structure of your board, however it is. And I would outline your expectations for governors too. And this is really important. Too often it's really hard to find governors. It's hard to ensure you've got the right people. And when you do get a new governor, it's very easy to just, great, grab them, we've got you, great, just do whatever you need, or we'll help you with. You've got to set those expectations right. You do need to come to all the meetings. You will need to visit the school. You are expected to read all of those documents and really work hard to ask the right questions about them. So make sure up front, people really do know what's expected of them. Key documents is next. Think about what you're showing people. I would really recommend you put a governor pack together. Have a pack that every new governor can use. I would say in there, you want your SEF, so your self-evaluation. You want to make sure that somebody understands where that school is now, how it's functioning now. I would also show them the school development plan or the school improvement plan, or the SIP, the SDP, whatever you call it in your school. Make sure they know where you're trying to get to. So you've got where you are and where you're going, that ultimate vision. Make sure that they know that up front. I would also help them understand the unique context of the school. That phrase, unique context of your school, is so vital. Doesn't matter what subject we're trying to talk to people about. Unique context is key. We've got a template on the Key for School Governors that's a school on a page. I really recommend you download that one. School on a page gives you just the basic information so you understand where your school's at, so that governor gets that initial sort of snapshot. Really important to begin with. When you've got those key documents, and again, you don't want to overload, don't give them a pile of papers like this to read. Keep them just the main things, just the most important, so they've got that overarching view of what they're trying to do. Processes next. That's where things like GovernorHub come in. For those of you that do use GovernorHub, I hope you find it really useful. It helps you communicate, you store all your documents in one place. You know, you've got your calendar there to help you know what you're doing and when. If you get your governors using those things right up front, it's going to help things much more smoothly. Don't leave it. Get those important things right in place before they've even been to their first meeting. And as well, what it does for them is it gives them something to do. It gets them excited about what they're doing. You know, they've made the decision to become a governor, so let's get them off and running. Give them some practical things to do. Fill in all your details on GovernorHub here, and you know, send us a message. Support systems next. We had a look on the poll there about buddy. You've got 80% of you not having a mentor or a buddy. I really do recommend this. It doesn't have to be the same person every time. You can share and share about. Choose sensibly. Who do you think will get on well? Are they local? Do they live near each other? You know, who's got the time to make sure that they talk to them and they help them out? Again, it's no point doing this. We talk about impact. What impacts as you're going through? Don't give anyone a buddy if this person is I don't know, a deputy head of a school themselves and actually is just never about. Make sure you've got someone that is really willing and keen to do this, but I do recommend you put a buddy in place. Then it's the school visit. They haven't been to the school yet. Right, okay, let's get them in. This is when your head teacher can get involved. When you know this, that you know the systems and the processes in place and they understand what they're there to do, then go and see the school. Majorly important. Been difficult in COVID, of course, but now get them in there. Meet the children. Say hello to the staff. Show their faces. Really important that people know who you are. Get the head to show them around, show off the school, understand its best bits, and hopefully, you know, and then you can start seeing that vision. The school development plan will really form in front of their eyes as they go around it, and they can start actually seeing how things work in school, because that's what they'll be doing with their visits ongoing. Meeting prep comes next. Help them prepare for their first meeting. My first meeting was ridiculous. I literally just turned up, didn't understand anything of what's happened, didn't understand a word. So get their mentor, their buddy, to help them prep for their meeting. Walk them through the agenda, show them the docs, help them come up with some questions even to ask. You know, as you're going through it, what don't you understand on here? What are the acronyms you need help with? Crikey, you know, where's the language you need helping with there? So walk them through so that in that first meeting, they are off and running and they feel like, actually, I've done something and I'm only in meeting once. After first meeting, it's roles and committees. And you can go a bit wrong here with roles and committees. Do get them to sit in all committees you have so that they can see it and see if they like it and see if they, you know, if they gravitate towards one or the other. You can, you know, get them to do that as much as you like. And roles, I would say it is important to get new governors into a role. Perhaps not in the way I was, given maths on my first meeting, didn't know what the heck to do. But you've got to be careful. Give them a role that they can be useful in right from the off. Don't give them a role they're going to be completely overwhelmed with and worry about. It is hard when you haven't got many governors on your board, perhaps, and you're sharing out the roles, but just think carefully, and hopefully in all this, all the work you've done before, the scene setting, the buddy system, the school visit, hopefully you'll have an idea by now of what these people might be suited to. And then it's training and development. Training, really important. On the Key for School Governors, we make sure that we've got courses on there that you can do online in bite-sized chunks at your leisure that gives you all you need to know for your induction to get those people off and running. Make it simple, don't make it onerous. Understand who's got time and what, you know, if somebody has got loads of time to go and do face-to-face things, then fantastic. If not, give them something easy that they can do. And that's kind of the whole journey all the way through induction. And I've got one last slide to show you before we stop for questions here. Review. This is something that people forget to do all the time. Put your induction plan in place, great. Get it moving, great. But check it works. Impact is really important. Ask them, your newbies, once you think they've been inducted, however long you feel that might take, how useful was it for you? Did it make governance less weird for you? And if not, change it. You don't have to stay down. You can, iterate on what you're doing each time. And also think about the impact of your induction. So when you're looking at those governors and you're, as a chair, perhaps you're doing one-to-ones every now and again to see how it's going. Do they actually know your school? Do you feel they know it well enough now, that unique context? Do they challenge and support? Are they asking questions in meetings? And have they made a difference? And that's what's really important. That's the end of my slides. Ollie, do we have some questions in the last few minutes?
We have one question. We have a few questions, but we'll probably only be able to get to one, I'm afraid, because we're at 9:46 already. But it's just a question about how long the induction process should take. I mean, how quickly do you think you should be completing induction for a new joiner to your governing body?
Cycles are difficult. You can vary this depending on your needs, but I think if you follow those rules, you want to get people ready for that first meeting right up front. If you can get them ready for that first meeting and feeling like that was a positive step, that's really important. But in reality, you've got the whole cycle of the school year to sort of go through before you've really got the view of, okay, here's the cycle, this is the impact, and this is what we're doing. So I would take it in chunks, get them ready for that first meeting, get them ready for their role, get them in and running, and then but understand that they need to work through that whole system across the year. If that makes sense.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that really engaging session, crammed full of helpful ideas. Just a reminder that the session has been recorded, so if you do want to watch it back or share with your colleagues, we're aiming to have the video sent out by the end of the week, along with the slides for the session. As I mentioned, the session is CPD certified. So in the webinar survey that pops up after the end of this session, just make sure you select the option to share your details with the CPD certification service, and you'll receive a certificate within 28 days. Please do keep checking our website and follow us on social media to keep up to date with our information about future events and webinars. And thanks again for your attendance at the conference, and we hope to see you at another session soon. And thank you very much, Ellie, for a really great session today.
You're welcome.